creating these letters down here for holidays. So basically, let me take away some of the ones I've already started here. What we're going to do is we're going to create a stroke. So this isn't necessarily a rectangle. You could use a rectangle. I'm just putting a line down the center, creating it with the pen tool. I'm holding down Shift to do straight lines. Hold down Command to click off. And I am using a stroke of around 5 points. Depending on how the size that you've placed yours, it might be slightly different. And you can, of course, change those lines at any time if you need to. I'm going to hold down Shift to slightly move this one up or down, or control how that looks. When you're all done with that, so if you notice, if I select this, I can make the stroke really fat, or I can make that stroke, thinner. And that is just what I'm doing there. So I used about a 5-point stroke. Yours may be different, like I said. You can select these and go to Object, Path, Outline, Stroke. Of course, this is just like that cascade after you finish that middle crossbar there. Object. You're going to, after I have this line weight here for this one, let me take it back here. So I can also use this line tool. We haven't used this line segment tool very much. I'm going to go ahead and give it a stroke, a 5 right there, and also Object, Path, Outline, Stroke. I'm going to change this one to a different color just so you can see how this will connect, just like we did on that cascade. Now that these are all shapes and no longer paths, I can use the Pathfinder to unite them. Now this one right here, I actually used a shape. So I went in and used the rounded rectangle tool, created that shape there, and then you can use a bounding box and those little corner edges if you want to change the radius a little bit on that to create that shape. With all of these letters here is to just make sure you outline stroke when you're finished after you've, and then Pathfinder all of them. Let's say on this Y is a little bit different here, so it still has a 5-point stroke, but let me show you how to approach these edges here with the direct selection tool. So I'm going to select these. They have a 5-point stroke. I mean, of course, you can use rectangles also to do that. Now that let me grab across here. I'm going to go to, once again, Object, Path, Outline, Stroke. And then, make sure that you Pathfinder it as well. Let me see. Here's my Pathfinder. I'm going to unite those. But then I can take that direct selection tool and finish off these edges here. And, if they're a little too tall, they're taller than the other letters, I can hold down Shift just to select with the direct selection tool those top areas. Pull them all down at once, and you can adjust it as needed. So you're just trying to get close. It's quite pixelated, right, from the original, but just get close. And we're learning, all about different approaches. Think of it, as a puzzle, and how would you approach that and create that. So this would be, once again, around 5 points. And just going to make sure when we're done with all of these, and you can make any edits you need to or go back. But before you outline stroke, I would suggest if you have any areas, if I did this S, I've got some wonky little shapes in here. I just smooth those out before I outline stroke is going to be the best way to do it. So if you need to move some of these around and make it a little smoother before you outline stroke, I would suggest that. So once again, make sure that they all become shapes, and They're not just paths. We want to make this whole thing, we're drawing it and before we're done. So, all right, let's get started on that. This is actually quite simple. It's a lot of fun to draw this one here, this anchor, but it is symmetrical. And I'm going to show you how I would approach it. So, well, let's just start out with a donut on top. So just like we drew our other ones, we're going to draw that donut. I'm going to get two different colors here for these shapes. I'm going to send that to the back. All right, let me just change it to stroke so I can see what I'm doing. It's a little bit large. I'm going to hold down Shift so I proportionally resize this. Hold down Option plus Shift, proportionally resizes it from the center, just to make sure that this is exactly lined up. 5-point stroke's a little heavy on this here. Makes it hard to see. Well, I guess it's just so small, you know. I'm going to have to go down way smaller so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to use Align. So if you can't find it, Window, Align. And I'm just going to make sure that I center it in the center both ways. And now it's looking pretty good. If I change this back one from the stroke to the fill, I can see it's in back. Perfect. Now I'm going to Pathfinder it. Minus front. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can build some of these other areas. So it really is going to be just a lot of rectangles and squares, and they're the same on both sides. So I'm holding down Option plus Shift to copy this over. And here, I'll pick a different color. They won't all be the same. Now, oops, there we go. And once again, I'm just drawing shapes. With the simple rectangle tool here. Yeah, I think probably this would, sometimes you have to guesstimate a little bit on that. So we want to align some of this on this bottom part here. I can't align some of these areas, so I'm going to select this whole grouping by dragging my cursor across. But then I'm going to hold down Shift to unselect one part. So I don't want to center. Doesn't matter if I center that one. I can't center this way, right? It'll shuffle them around, but I can center horizontally, and that aligns them just right. I'm going to go ahead and Pathfinder those so they're one shape, and then I'll include these as well. So I'm going to hold down Shift to select those other ones as I drag my cursor across to mix with these, and they're all one now. I have aligned those as well. Now this bottom part is really a bit custom, so I'm just going to trace it as best I can. It is tiny and it is pixelated, so I'm just sort of going to guesstimate, you know, and that's okay. It will look fine when I zoom out because it is very, very small on the page, and it is symmetrical, so we do not have to have it. We don't have to draw it twice. We're just going to draw it once, and let me here change it to a stroke so I can see what I'm drawing. You know, and that stroke at one point is quite large when we're down this small. So I'm just going to, as best I can, you know, these are probably supposed to be curves here. And we'll finish it off. Okay, so I'm going to change this from a stroke to a fill. And if you want to straighten anything out, now's the time to do it. So if I decide, you know, oh, this curve's a little too sharp, I really would like mine to be slightly different, I would adjust it before we join these two together. So we're going to hold down Option and Shift to drag this straight across. Going to reflect this. and overlap it slightly. I can hit that Command Y for preview, hit Command Y again to get it off. And I'm just going to check that I'm happy. If I need to overlap any of these areas right here too, I can. All right, so I'm going to select this side. Let me change it to a different color so you can see what I've got going here. I need a different color besides that. Okay, here we go. There we go. I'm going to select this, hold down Shift plus Shift. We're going to Pathfinder these together, and then I'm going to hold down Shift. You know, if I zoom in, I really do need to, with my direct selection tool, just drag the bottom of these two down a little bit so it looks a little better. And then I'm going to, here, I'll change the color so you can see what happens. Select these plus this top part of the anchor, and I'm going to Pathfinder. So the goal is to have it all Pathfindered when you're done. Oh, now we got to add that donut to it. There we go. We have a anchor, and it looks pretty good. I'm going to toggle that layer eyeball on and off so you can see what the actual one looked like in the end. And you can, you know, alter it if you want to. I'm going to show you how to draw this enjoy part down here. Now, we've already learned how to do a banner and how to Pathfinder those little dashes on the side in the banner, but the enjoy is actually quite simple. It's a very squared off typeface. So we are just going to draw straight lines. It's a slab serif, you know, so that means that it has squared off serifs. And you'll do the whole typeface like this. Now I'm going to select all these pieces. I'm holding down Shift to select all of these lines here. I'm going to give it a stroke weight that matches, very similar. There we go. And then I'm going to go to Object, Path, Outline, Stroke, and then I'm going to Pathfinder it. Let me see, where is my Pathfinder? If you can't find your Pathfinder, it's, you know, you can always check underneath the window, but it looks like this one right here. Pathfinder it together. Now it's one piece. So just go along and draw all these. Of course, you can use that ellipse tool, and the O would be the best bet right there. And make sure when you're all done, your name's at the top, and just do a quick check to make sure you've Pathfindered everything before you finish this one up.